Tonight, a form of justice is being imposed on men responsible for the massacre of 6 Jesuit priests. It was one of the most glaring and brazen human rights crimes of the 20th century. Before dawn in November of 1989, an elite battalion of El Salvador's military dragged the priests out of their beds and killed them, execution style. A housekeeper and her daughter were also shot to death, and now the State Department is barring 13 former military officials in El Salvador from ever entering this country. The brutal violence occurred at the height of the Salvadoran Civil War. The State Department found the military officers were central to the planning and execution of a plot to kill the Jesuits for their outspoken defense of human rights. Here now to talk about the massacre and its impact on the church is the national correspondent for the Tablet and Crux, Christopher White. Christopher, welcome, as always.
Lydia, good to be back with you.
Now, there's a saying in Catholicism, the blood of the martyr is the seed of the church. The martyrdom of these Jesuits specifically inspired Pope Francis. Can you talk more about that?
Sure. So then Father Mario Bergoglio was monitoring the situation in El Salvador very closely. And over the years since he's become Pope, he's talked about the witness of these holy men. In fact, last January when he went to Panama, he was hoping to make a stopover in El Salvador to, again, sort of lift up their example. So it's something that I think has formed his own priesthood and ministry, and he wants to sort of lift that up to the world so their memory may not be forgotten.
And now the United States is also making a strong stance when it comes to this. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo released a statement about the sanctions saying, quote, "We value our ongoing working relationship with the Salvadoran armed forces, but will continue to use all available tools and authorities as appropriate to address human rights violations and abuses around the world, no matter when they occurred or who perpetrated them." Now, the Trump administration already has a rocky relationship with the Central American country. What do you think that these sanctions will do now for the relationship?
Well, I mean, one of the things the Trump administration has tried to do is sort of promote religious liberty and religious freedom around the world, including freedom to worship. So one of the things substantively that this does is acknowledges past wrongs in order to make things right. As you mentioned, there's been a rocky relationship with El Salvador.
With the migration issues, right?
Exactly. And, one of the generals that was involved in this is currently under trial. So I think they want to make a very clear statement that, as a part of these sanctions, they are not welcome in the United States and that they will be forever monitored and labeled because of that.
These priests were essentially killed because they were advocates for the poor and spoke out against the government. Very, very reminiscent of Jesus Christ himself, don't you think?
Yeah, it's interesting. These people lived in the trenches along with their people. And yeah, again, it has echoes of Christ's ministry. And I think that's why it's so dear to the ministry of Pope Francis, who sees so much of, the marginalized and those on the peripheries of society, trying to place that in the center of the church.
Thank you so much, Christopher White, national correspondent for the Tablet and Crux.
Thanks, Lydia.
Thank you.
If you're watching Currents News on YouTube, be sure to hit the subscribe button and then click on the bell to get instant updates about all of our newest content, because we are putting your faith in the news.